Celtics are back, baby, and they're back big. They won 132 to 109. I'm not sure it was that close. I think once again it was unreal. They tie an NBA record with 29 threes. So just what just looking at that game overall, just what was the biggest takeaway from the opening season opening win? Excuse me.
Well, I guess the biggest thing for me, just narratively speaking, was I hadn't formally decided what I wanted to see out of them going into the game. The way
Mhm.
that I was intellectualizing it going in, I was actually thinking more about the Knicks, and I think that's probably because they made this big blockbuster trade,
Yeah.
shipping out Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and getting back a guy who a lot of people put in a lot of top 5 lists in different categories at the center position, a guy that essentially, it seems to me, I don't know if anyone said this out loud, but it seems to me a guy that you're bringing in to make your team look like a team that can beat the Celtics.
Right.
So that narrative obviously popped up coming in, and I I couldn't think of a worse way for that game to go for the New York Knicks if
Mhm.
you're building a team to beat the Celtics, and we
Right.
Porzingis-less beat you with handily. I think it was a statement game from Boston,
Mhm.
and I am so excited to see the size of the chips on the shoulders of Brown and Tatum because I think, and I would love to feed into this narrative, I think that they feel slighted from the Team USA antics. Jaylen winning finals MVP, not making the team. Jayson making the team being benched because his shooting was poor.
Yeah.
I think they have chips on their shoulders. I think they're pissed. And I think they're playing like 2 guys that just won a championship.
Yeah.
I think there was a certain level of swag I hadn't seen before that I saw last night. It's an intangible, it's hard to describe, but it seems like you know what I'm talking about. So,
Yeah.
I'm feeling fucking great.
We seen it happen, when the Celtics won in '08, right? And obviously we didn't look at it as intricate, as intensely as we probably do
There
now.
was something nice about seeing that core group of guys yesterday at the
Uh,
banner raised too, right?
for
Sort of
me,
come in and be like,
me,
"All right,
for
guys,
me,
like, here, we're handing you our
yeah,
respect." Right.
starting Woozy, and
Yeah.
it's weird because I don't think anyone from the '70s and '80s teams came. I know some guys aren't necessarily alive either, but Eddie
Yeah, they're
McCool.
getting up there.
Yeah, Eddie McCool, yeah, but I mean, no one's older than Cousy. So if he could pop up, the rest of us could pop up too. So
Fair.
I was just like, hold on, my man came in a wheelchair. It was just like, put the
Yeah,
one in. So
yeah.
that was awesome to
He
see.
was
But
always all grit though, you know?
yeah,
He was always all grit to the end, so you gotta respect
yeah,
that.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So it was cool to see that. Eddie McCool to see Mikal and Parrish, and yeah, I think Dave Cowens is alive, so he didn't miss someone from the '70s. But either way, let's say the legends were in the building, and it was a great way to celebrate past, present, and hopefully the future. So,
Those fits were
um,
fresh as fuck too,
yeah,
the
yeah,
all white ones
agreed.
with the gold trim. Oh my god, they were looking the part, and
Yeah,
those
yeah,
rings
amazing.
it's weird, I mean, I feel like almost it hit me more that we won like yesterday than it
Yeah,
did at the end of the series when we just kinda swept Dallas because I'm not being arrogant. I am completely being arrogant actually here when I say this. Like when I started to like think about this as we were coming back and I was like looking at the playoffs, I was like, we were
mhm,
emotionally invested. So like we're thinking about the things that they're not doing right. You know, we're worried about this stuff, worried about these matchups. They didn't really have a problem with winning that championship. Like there wasn't a ton of adversity, to be quite frank. And those legends in the building, that stripe they were wearing, the conversations they seem to be having, I don't know, they just looked the part, dude. You know what I mean? And I think they looked the part
yeah,
in the playoffs too, and it's like, "Ooh, we might be those guys."
yeah. I mean, that should be one of the biggest takeaways, or like the biggest takeaway. What I noticed as well, the difference between the two teams is that you can see, obviously, the Celtics look like a team that had continuity, that had consistency, that had been through that journey last year. The Knicks look like a bunch of misfit toys put together, right? And yes, Bridges, Hart, and Brunson played together in college. Once again, that was a long time ago for all three parties involved. You're trying to incorporate how cats are looking at the offense. So there's a lot of things that they have to figure out, which I firmly believe they're going to figure out. Right? Like I don't want to overact and act like the season's over just because of how they lost. 29 threes is not sustainable. It was dope to see, but it's not sustainable. But to me, we just saw a team that had been together, had won together, now trust each other with everything in a basketball sense, and just go out there and just say, hey, and to take a wrestling phrase from my guy MJF, I'm better than you, and you know it. It's like,
But
you know
that
what I'm
is
saying?
what
It's,
that
it's,
is
it's,
what
it's
that
a
game
fun.
looked like, dude. That is what that game looked like. Like,
Yeah.
the Celtics decided that they were just kinda gonna go man to man with all their guys. Like, we didn't run, like, a super complicated which I liked, to be totally honest with you, to start out the season, sorta get into it, just sorta get a feel for it, like, a lot of rhythm checks, a lot of heat checks, a lot just make sure we're all still cooking, we're all still reading off the same hymn sheet. They know how to play basketball together, those guys. So, the amount of times Jayson Tatum and we have been calling for this exact thing from Jayson Tatum for
Mhm.
season after season after season. The amount of times he was like, "Where's Mikal Bridges?" Like, he would, like, look up and he'd be like, "Where is he?" And he would get switched on him and he would
Mhm.
cook him in a way that I haven't seen Tatum play like that. I've seen him do it, but not with that kind of venom.
Yeah.
It's why people kinda clown him for with, like, being the Kobe guy and this, that, and the other. It's like, I've never seen that kind of Kobe, like, killer instinct from him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in one game against the Knicks where he, like, shot well is that, but he did feel to me, he had the fresh cut, the confidence. He
Mhm.
came in and he was like, "Where's that guy?" And he cooked him, like, a few times, and Jaylen Brown was doing the same shit. Like, Jaylen Brown, every time Brunson got switched out in an off the ball play, Jaylen Brown was like, "I'm right here. I'm right
Mhm.
here."
Yep.
Like, you were even saying, like, Tatum was clocking up. He was probably at 32 or 33 by that point, and you were in the chat saying, "Jaylen Brown's playing out of his mind." So I agreed. All his off the ball work, like, he was everywhere,
Mhm.
and playing like a finals MVP because he
Right.
fucking
Right.
is one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, there you go. Like, they believe that everything that they achieved was because they're sick. Thank
Mhm.
God, because a lot of the internet doesn't. So,
Yeah,
they
I
still
mean,
figured that out.
it's we're getting back to, and thankfully it's a great place to be, but we're getting back to a place where, people are already starting to get Boston fatigue again,
Yeah.
and I'm
I
here
want
for it.
that. I want
I
that
want
for
that. I want that, so I'm here for it, but, to
People
go
hate
further.
Tatum specifically too, so if he could,
Mhm,
like, really just go bananas this year,
mhm,
then
right. Yeah, I mean, that's what so I wanted to stay right there. So, once again, he gets 37, 10 rebound I mean, not sorry, rebounds, 10 assists, 4 rebounds. He was 14 of 18 from the field, which is a little under 80%, and he was 8 of 11 from, from 3. So, just, obviously, we've seen him score 30, and we've seen him score 40, 50. Hell, he even scored 60 in the game a few years back against San Antonio. So, but the key to me, and I know the key is to you because we talked about it before, was the playmaking. So him getting 10 assists was huge. So just, speak to how his playmaking abilities, improve things not only for him but the team as a whole.
well, I think it's really indicative of how much of a unit they actually are, which I think really jumped off the screen yesterday. Like, I think that everybody really is operating on the same wavelength on that team. And with all the iterations of that team we've gone through, with basically the core pieces sort of being the same. If you think about the sort of emotional core and leadership core of that team now is Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. And if it is those three guys, with obviously other veteran voices like in the mix, and it does feel like everybody's like on the same page, that feels to me like they've been building a culture since 2018. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, those are the guys that have sort of been there for that. So
Yeah.
when I see Tatum letting the game come to him, play make, trust that the guys are going to be where they're going to be, and play hard. Don't get me wrong, but like, Derrick White's really good at this. Jayson Tatum, when he's playing like this, is really good at this. But letting the game come to you in a way where it's like, don't overcommit on a rebound. Just like try to read the rebound, man. We're really good. Like, we're really long. If a guy tries to take you one on one, like, don't let that happen. You don't have to switch your defense on for a game, Jason. You have to switch your defense on contextually. So if someone tries to get him, he's got to get him back. Or he's got to lock him up. And when he's making those decisions correctly, like the sort of dogged one-on-one decisions correctly,
Mhm.
he plays at his best. And playmaking is a big part of that because what I think he does is he's such a rhythm player, right? It's
Yeah.
both the problem that everyone has with him and like what makes him really good.
Mhm.
What he's gonna get better at and what he's already gotten better at is getting himself into that rhythm. And I think he finally understands that playmaking is the path to that, because it is.
Right.
It just is. Like if they start to come to you thinking that you're hurting them on this plane, on the eye plane and not the scoring plane,
Mhm.
then they're going to exist down here. And then you get to fly up there unfettered, which is how he has a great Jayson Tatum game, right? He does both of them.
Mhm.
And to your point, scoring on all levels. I will also say his 3-point shot looked really fucking ice cold. Like really, like I'm going up, I'm fucking putting that in. We all have had our issues with Tatum's shot selection at times and like streaks of cold volume shooting from three. I
Mhm.
don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw market percentage increases in his overall 3-point shooting this year, by just how he was shooting the ball.
Yeah, and so, the thing with him, and we've talked about this at nauseam, but we're gonna keep talking about it, is when he came so the first did he get the first shot of the game, comes off the high screen to the right-hand side, raises up, draws, and I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "He's ready." And always could tell with him early on when he's locked in. And what I appreciate about your favorite coach, Joe Mazzulla, what he did yesterday.
I'm coming around to that guy. I think he just might be a psycho.
Yeah, oh, big time, big time. But I
I'm into
appreciate
that.
what I appreciate about what he did yesterday, usually he would take Tatum out around the 7-minute mark, 6-minute mark, and let him come back. And then that's why we saw first quarter JB become a thing, because Jaylen Brown played the whole first quarter and just go ballistic, right? So it looks like, or hopefully this is a thing of the future, the quick adaptation to say, okay, let me have Tatum go for the first quarter and let Brown come with the second unit. And what do you know? The man had 15 and 5 in the first quarter. And I'm like, oh, it's amazing what happens when you let him set the tone, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you, Joe. But more importantly, thank you, Steve Kerr. That won't be the last time we hear that tonight. But thank you, Steve
Sure,
Kerr,
Steve Kerr
Joe.
did something. He might have done it on purpose. He might be a good enough coach that he did it on purpose to try and motivate Jayson Tatum. He did something to him. He broke his brain in a
Yeah,
good way.
I'm
In
I'm
a good
I'm
way.
I'm
I agree
grateful.
with you. I agree with you totally. Because the thing for me is like I think that there's a layer now. The way that they're playing at such a high level, I think there's a layer of the game that Jayson Tatum exists in and can dominate, and I think there's a layer of the game that Jaylen Brown can exist in and dominate, and I think that they both know that too. And I think that they can feed off each other. I like when they're on the court at the same time defensively in key moments nowadays. But I will say, like, if not to jump ahead, I know that one of your questions is going to be, should JB be shooting for first team all defense this year? And like, if I was really handing out like delayed goal setting things, I would be telling Jayson Tatum he should be trying to be the league MVP. I mean, I don't think this is ridiculous to say, to be quite honest with you. I think he should be telling Jayson Tatum he should be the league MVP. I think that you should be telling Jaylen Brown that he should be first team all NBA and first team all defensive. I think that you should be encouraging guys like Kristaps, like Drew Holiday, to be getting on all defensive teams, or in Kristaps' case, at least an all NBA team, just play enough to like qualify for it. I want to set like a look how many motherfuckers they have on these superlative lists record with this team this year. And the way you do that is you just keep winning shitloads of games. Which big market tease, I'm gonna predict 82-0 again.
Oh man. Well, no, I mean, listen, we can stay right there with JB, right? Because obviously that's what I want to get into next. Once again, they combined for 60 last night, and when that happens, most likely you're not beating him, right? And so, he comes in with 23, but also, like I said, I was more focused on what he was doing, defensively. So I do think this is a year that he gets the first team defense. Now, yes, it was obvious that things were not going in his favor. NBA, they played him 3 times. And once again, I said this when they won it, but I do think that led to him winning the conference finals MVP and finals MVP. Even though
Well
he
deserved, by the way.
well deserved, but I'm saying like they made sure they was like, look, we could not snub him 5 times. Like that could not happen. So I'm glad that they made up for that to a certain extent. But yeah, I've seen there was like a still like early in the third where Brunson was going for like his normal drive, and JB shot the gap, and like basically it was like taking candy from a baby. And I was like, this is like, it should not be this easy. Like that's I'm like, this is not normal. And I think sometimes we get phased and like, yo, like, is this really happening? It's like, yeah, like I get to watch this,
Yeah.
you know, 82
Yeah, I
games
feel that. I
a
do.
year, potentially 100, and then they get to the final. So, like, it's unbelievable to see where he's grown, but like I said, to me, first team defense should be something that should be on the horizon. He picked up guys full court yesterday, which
Yeah.
I I didn't think that would happen from game
I
one.
I saw that a
I
couple of times. I yelled that at my television. I was like, "Pick their best player up full court." That's what I like to see. I know exactly the first sequence you're talking about where he caught him kinda near the sideline, right? He picked him up
Mhm,
kind
yep,
of full court
exactly,
'cause
yep,
he picked him up from the sideline. I was like, "They're not scoring on this drive." Like, they're just it's not happening. So, yeah, I mean, I just really appreciated the energy, the tone setting, veteran moves across the board from everybody, that everybody had the kind of game that they should have. I had a couple of, "I can't fucking believe we have Drew Holiday" moments, like a couple of just like, "I
yeah,
can't believe that we have this guy also." Looking at Porzingis in a suit, I'm like, "Get your shit together, buddy, and we might win 75 fucking games. Guy can play for 65 of them." So, I don't know. I mean, the fucking roster is insane. Winning the finals was, like, not that hard. People are mad because it wasn't that hard for us. That's the thing. Like, people are,
yeah,
like, pissed because we kinda walked everybody. And there
mhm,
was some good storylines brewing in the West, and Dallas, and Kyrie, and this, and we were like, "No." And we didn't let any of that noise in either. We didn't let any of that Kyrie noise in. We just fucked him up. So, it
mhm,
seems like we're just able to do that to everyone now. I
yeah,
didn't
I mean,
see any red flags in the performance yesterday at all.
right. Well, the only thing, and once again, this was just towards the end of the game, but I was like, I didn't love them hunting the 30th three. I get why they were doing it. Obviously, like obviously you want to break the record, and the fans were pissed. It was like 1 more 3, 1 more 3. So I mean, like I said, I didn't love that, but once again, I just felt like it should have happened in the flow of the offense. Shout out to Jeff T's podcast, Club 520. He and I'm only bringing this up because I thought this shit was hilarious. He was talking. He had called Jordan Walsh baby Charlie Villanueva, and I lost it. Like I was like, wow. I was like, that's
He does look a lot like him.
he does. I was like, yeah. I was like, he was like, yeah. Baby Charlie V should have been out there shooting them three. He should have been going to the cup. I'm like,
Yeah.
I said, oh my god. So it was only a matter of time before someone on the show called him, Charlie Villanueva 2.0 because he does look just like him. So, but that was and that was comedy. But yeah, but I like I said, they did a phenomenal job, last night. Like I said, it's not like you said, there's nothing to speak about in a negative manner. Um, and like I said, I want to get into the first few games of it, right?